Welcome to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. I'm your host, Luke Darnell. This week we have our good friend Corey Mikes from Fat Boys BBQ out of Temple, Texas. Corey cooks with his dad, Danny, and both have been stalwarts of Texas BBQ for a long time. This interview has a lot of practical advice, a lot of real thought, and a ton of great stories. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Corey Mikes. This episode is brought to you by the Barbecue League. The Barbecue League is the ultimate barbecue experience. Here's why. One small annual investment from you instantly unlocks all 70-plus tell-all recipes, enthusiast recipes, restaurateurs, and more in their unmatched library. This isn't your typical YouTube-type content. World champions like Gettin' Basted, Shake and Bake Barbecue, Heavy Smoke Barbecue, La Pasadita Barbecue, and 913 Barbecue share their full tell-all recipes. No secret is left unsaid, and a new video release is guaranteed every single week of your membership. You'll also see unfiltered looks from all levels of pitmasters during their live competition coverage, and those same pitmasters are accessible through the league's upbeat online community. As soon as you sign up, you'll also have a full arsenal of some of the best discounts in barbecue from brands like Snake River Farms, Blues Hog, Big Papa Smokers, Gunter Wilhelm, Gateway Drum Smokers, and more. The Barbecue League puts on members-only contests throughout the year, hosts live and virtual events, and offers a full-access league lounge at participating events. Listeners to this podcast can receive $10 off of the $100 annual membership this month only by using the code JUNEPITMASTER, all capital letters, all one word, June Pitmaster on thebarbecueleague.com. Well, we are here this week with Corey Mikes from Fat Boys BBQ. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Good. You've been cooking a lot?
It's been an interesting year. Definitely not cooking as much as I wanted to. Really kind of in time in life that being pulled in multiple directions, and it's good and bad, you know.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we had our third child this last November, into November. So I got a 6-month-old at home. I got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And it's like kind of getting them up and running with some activities and definitely keeping me busy. So if I'm not cooking, I'm doing something.
Absolutely.
So
plus you got to keep your dad in line.
That's right. That's a full-time job in itself. So
you're one of the... Go ahead.
I was going to say, my mom's been trying to keep him in line for, I don't know how long they've been married, 36, 37 years. And I don't think she's figured it out yet, so I sure as heck don't know either.
You guys got to be one of the most successful father-son teams out there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, when I grew up, Dad was cooking, and he was like a big deal. Of course, back then it was a little different, and that we didn't have all the social media, but like I remember when I started cooking, he told me, and I remember these stories. We blew out a tire. I think we were going to like Tennessee one year, and I was probably 7, 8 years old, and we pulled into a Walmart to get a tire. And they announced on the intercom, like, hey, Fat Boys BBQ's here. Like, and Dad had to sign a bunch of autographs. And so that, I remember Dad telling me, like, hey, if you get good enough, someday you'll be signing autographs. And I laughed at that. I haven't signed any autographs, so I guess I'm not that good. But it's just different time. It's cool to be able to, in a way, follow in his footsteps. And, like competition barbecue, it's hard. It's kind of ever evolving, and it takes a lot to keep up with the Joneses in a lot of ways. Some guys do better than others, and then for me, like, I feel like I just get lucky a lot.
I kind of feel the same way, and I'm trying to recall the first time that we met, and I want to say, was it King of the Smokers?
I think it might have been King of the Smokers. Actually, what? Let's see. When did we go to King of the Smokers? Was it 2017 or what was it? 2018?
I think it was the winter of 2016.
Was it the winter of 2016?
Yeah, because that was the year we were Chicken Team of the Year, and that's why we got to come out there.
Yep. Yeah, because yeah, I remember seeing, we came up to the banquet that year, and that's the only banquet we went to. And in part, we went to the drum guys class, which was, that was entertaining in itself. Got a little
That's
bit of
right.
knowledge, got some good entertainment. The entertainment value is never really hyped up online like it should be. They give a lot of good info, but if I go to another class anytime soon, I'm going to try to go back to that one just for the sheer laughs that it brings. But yeah, so they did it the weekend of the banquet, and so we went ahead and did the banquet and that class, and it was a good time.
That's right. That class
I
was
think
out
I finished. I got it actually on the wall. I finished seventh in chicken that year. I think I cooked 19 contests that year. 19 KCBS.
That's an awesome batting average right there.
Yeah,
finishing that high. Yeah,
I remember
that class was at the Kansas City barbecue store, wasn't it?
Yep, it was.
That's right.
And it was like, I think the high all weekend. Of course, being a Texas guy, I'm used to like 40 degrees is cold. Sorry, I got some people going to drink right here. But yeah, like 40 degrees is cold. And I get up there, and I think the high all weekend was like 15 degrees, and the last morning we were like trying to race a blizzard out of there, and it was forecasted to hit at like 7 a.m. So we were like, we'll get on the road at 6 and be an hour ahead of it, and hopefully get south before we woke up to like 8 inches of snow. And that was like, oh my God, what are we doing?
I remember that. That was a good time.
That was a good time. But yeah, so I guess it was out at King and Smoker we first met, which that was, you talk about like bucket list items, that was probably my bucket list. Oh
yeah, it was a complete
results
total
out there, but I didn't give a crap how I finished. I just wanted to be there,
Yeah. Same here. It was yeah. I agree, man. It was
being in the yeah. So that was awesome. That's something that my dad, he missed out on. He had I think a knee surgery like a week or two prior, and he considered trying to move his surgery date to make it. He just it was one of those, like, he'd been on the books for 6 months, needed to get it done. He missed out on it, but I wish he would have been there because it was awesome.
Yeah, that was a great time. Well, let's get into some of the podcast questions here. Because I could sit there and share stories with you all day.
Yeah.
That actually would be a good podcast too.
That would be a good one.
How has your career and life experiences outside of barbecue prepared you to be a competitive pit master? Yeah,
so this is actually something that I don't know if a lot of people are going to see this correlation, but it's definitely something that I think has influenced me. I'm a registered nurse. I graduated nursing school in 2013, and I went into the operating room and ended up, and really 2014 is kind of when I started getting quasi serious about competition.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I'd grown up around barbecue. It's something that, I like to say it's in my blood, and it's something that, my grandfather did before my dad, and, competitions weren't really a thing. But so the operating room, it's very detail oriented. It's you got to have a plan and a plan B and a plan C. And, a lot of that is what I do in barbecue too, is it's like, I have a plan every cook-off I go, and it's how I execute it is what my plan is, kind of what it evolves into, and a lot of times plan A isn't what I end up at. A lot of times I'm on those detours just based on how the cook went, but it's always, you're in salvage mode. You want to have the best outcome you can. And same way in surgery, it's like, you don't want to do any harm, it's just, you just want to kind of get safely through everything. And it's kind of like that in barbecue. So there's that. And, of course, my parents opened a restaurant, and I think it was probably, let's see, I think I was in 6th grade. So that would have been about 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And like, when I say that day one I was here as an employee, that's like not a lie. Like, day one, I remember getting out of school that day, and it's like, oh, we're going to the restaurant, being excited and coming down here and walking into a mountain of dishes in the kitchen. And Dad was like, okay, wash the dishes. And so it started there, kind of an apprenticeship, I guess. but it ended up, by the time I was like 13 years old, and my brothers too, I've got 4 brothers. So, in a lot of ways, like I think mom and dad, they paid us, but it was more of like, incentivizing your allowance, like if you want an allowance, you got to work for it.
Right.
It wasn't much. In a way, it was like free labor.
Sure.
But I was like 13 years old, trimming briskets and seasoning briskets and smoking briskets. And, I like to think that, a lot of guys, even comp guys that have been doing this a long time, like I've cooked a lot more, just volume, not the same style, but definitely volume than a lot of guys. And I didn't necessarily have every aspect of it, where I did every part of it, but I was always doing something, every single day I was a part of it.
Yeah. And that makes a huge difference in terms of,
oh yeah,
people, I always ask them, they're like, people always ask me, how did I get better? And it's because I cooked a bunch and practiced a bunch. And, I just think even, now doing a lot more catering and things like that, I'm still cooking meat and I'm still
right. And you're still learning, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the thing. Like I nerded out with barbecue because it's one of those things, like no matter like who it is, what product comes out, there's never that magic bullet. Like there's never going to be something it's like, or to cook the perfect rib, it's always like, to get to that result that you want, like not every single one of my cooks go the same way.
Right.
And so that trial and error of when it was cold and rainy and wind gusts, you might be able to translate that to when you're up in the mountains at, 8,000 feet, with high winds, you can translate all those encounters, all over the country.
Right.
So that definitely helps you.
And it gives you a lot of confidence, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that confidence is one of the keys to success in this hobby. I don't call it a sport.
Yeah, dude. If it was a sport, we'd all be in way better shape. Right. No, yeah. I 100% agree with you. There's this aspect that's just sheer like mental. You're cooking against yourself, and that's really like when I roll into a contest, like I cooked a contest this last weekend that was 68 teams, and it's a local contest, and it's one of my dad's best friends. It's his name. It's a memorial contest. So I'm going to cook every day, every year that it rolls around, just because of what it's about, But you can roll into a contest with 68 teams and be really intimidated. But really, at the end of the day, like I had a plan going in. Like I know that this is what I'm looking for on my brisket, ribs, and chicken. And it's just I'm competing against myself. Can I get the result that I wanted? I really thought that my ribs and brisket were really, really good. I wasn't super happy with my chicken, and lo and behold, like a 3rd place rib and 9th place brisket. I hit a finals table in chicken, which was somewhere between like 16th and 20th. But it's one of those, like I knew going in that my chicken was my weakest category. And I actually told Dad that, like with a contest that big, I really needed a top 10 chicken call. I really, and I told him a top 7. If I can get a top 7 chicken call, I felt like I could win the contest. And when it didn't come, then I need a Hail Mary. So
Right. So in that mental aspect of barbecue, do you have conversations with yourself? Do you talk to yourself during the cook?
I might cuss myself.
Do you put those goals, like, your plans? Do you have those written down? Do you have them, or is it just in your mind?
It's I'm a very visual person, so I definitely and my wife thinks I'm crazy. I might be the only person that does this, but like, have you seen those memes of guys like laying in bed with like thought bubbles above his head, and his wife's like saying, I wonder which girl he's thinking of, and in the thought bubble it's like, talking about barbecue or like sports, or that's me, like to a T. Like I'll lay there in bed, and so I kind of, one of my things is the week of a contest, I sit there and I kind of game plan in my head, and it's one of those, like I'm running through steps, and that's another part of surgery. Like you kind of prepare, you mentally prepare for those, so you run through steps and you run through kind of exactly. I knew going into that contest this last weekend, it's one that it's a CTBA contest, the Central Texas Barbecue Association, And I always like to call those as like my Texas tender textures. You know, it's like,
right.
You know, like my whole goal is like, I'm going to cook everything as tender as I can get it before I start drying it out. And I nailed it on my ribs. Like, thought I nailed it on my brisket too. My chicken was just not quite there. So yeah, like I definitely have that game plan that I like, once the day's winding down, because a lot of times, like I get up at 5:30 to go to work, and it's like, go until the end of the day. And that's when I can kind of unwind and plan, you know, plan my mode of attack.
I can't think of another profession that would prepare you for the level of detail like going into surgery. I mean,
right. And you know, that's definitely like, so like most of my background's in like cardiac and vascular surgery. And, you know, like I've always been someone that's like, if there's a need, like I'll step up and help out. And I hope anyone that's worked with me, like could vouch for that. I may not be the best person for the job, but I'm sure as heck going to give it basically everything I got. You know, it's like, it's details matter. It's, you know, you're using certain size needles and certain size suture and certain instruments. You know, it all has a reason, you know, and a lot of times it's like, you just got to know that why. So like when I'm cooking barbecue and like when I'm teaching someone or, you know, helping someone out, it's like, you know, I don't just say like, you're going to smoke your meat till you get it to this color, then you're going to wrap it. Like, you know, I like to give them the why. You know, and that's just based off of my experience. It's not necessarily the right or the wrong thing, but that's just based off of, you know, everyone. I feel like a lot of people in competition barbecue know who I am, you know, and there's still a lot of stuff that I could do. There's still a lot of, you know, there's a lot of contests, man. I haven't won a grant, not a grant, but a major, you know, an overall at a major. Won some categories, had a couple really good calls, some good finishes, but you know, it's that big one that it's haunting me. So
I think you're going to get there sooner rather than later, my friend.
Yeah. So
doesn't mean, I mean, that's just fascinating to me, thinking about the level of detail in your private life, and then, you know, how you can apply that to barbecue. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah. And you know, it's like super. Like I work with some people at work that are really getting into smoking, and I like to think that I have had something to do with that. But, you know, you start talking about like the scientific side of it, you know, that's something like I consider myself a bit of a nerd in some things, you know, like I like to know why. I like to know why stuff works the way it does. And, you know, like there's no stone left unturned, you know. I've got hours, like thousands of hours of research in barbecue, which is dumb. You know, but it's like, you know, when you're obsessed with something and it's like you're obsessive compulsive and you spend time on it. Of course, the last like 2 years, I haven't spent near as much time on it just because the kids and, you know, work and kind of getting that stage of my life that's, you know, no dull moment.
Right.
So,
well, we've talked about how great you are. Let's talk about let's talk about when you fucked up.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite failures of yours, like during contests where you really were like, wow, I just learned a lot about myself or my cooker and really set you up for success going forward?
Yeah. So, I mean, I will tell you, this is actually a pretty funny story. So I'll say this, and I think everyone knows me. I'm a Cosmo guy, you know, like I'm tried and true. Like, you know, I know what I like and that's what I use. And I'm a Cosmos fanboy, but I was up in, I might have a trophy around here somewhere. I think it was 2018 in Oklahoma City. I think it was called Brickyard Barbecue. And I was in Nebraska. And I don't know if I've told him this story. I don't know how many people. I know I've told a few people, but he was telling me about this new product he was coming out with, and it was his phosphate, his TR phosphates. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yep.
And he's telling me how it's, you know, phosphates with tenderizer. I'm like, dude, I want to play with it. Like, give me a bag, you know. And he's like, so I buy a bag from him. He didn't give it to me, but I buy a bag and he's telling me, he was like, hey, like, don't use it this weekend. Take it home, you know, practice with it, see what you think, you know, and kind of gave me some guidelines. Well, anyone that's taken my class or knows me, like, I dump that stuff in almost everything. Well, I thought, and not TR, but just Moisture Magic in general. So I thought that weekend, I said, you know what, like, I'm going to run this in chicken. Like, how can that be bad? I get my chicken, I don't have to cook it to as hot of a temp because it has the tenderizer. So I'm going to get that good texture. Then I'm going to retain a lot of moisture because I'm being able to finish it at a lower temp. In my head, like, this all made sense, right?
Uh-huh.
So I go and I cook my chicken just like I usually do, but I swap my Moisture Magic for that TR. I didn't tell Dad that I did this. Of course, he's one that he's like, don't change anything, just do what you know. Well, I go to sauce chicken the next day, unwrap the pan, and I go to grab a chicken thigh out of my pan, and the bone comes straight up through the meat and skin and everything. I have a clean bone that just slid right through the top of my thigh. And Dad's looking at me, and he's like, what the fuck just happened? And I look at him, and I was like, Dad, I messed up. And you can't salvage that, right? So I used a spatula to put some sauce on my thighs and get them in the box. I think I finished like next to dead last in chicken. And I deserved last place because, man, I like that stuff. I didn't realize how much that tenderizer, like it works.
It works.
And so when Dave was like, hey, be careful with this stuff. Like, kind of, this is what I've been kind of thinking about, using it here and there. My head's like, I'm using it on chicken, buddy. Like, and I'm going to run it. But that stuff, it's pretty fascinating. If you need something like, steaks or, there's a lot of really, really interesting things you can do with that. But that's probably my biggest, technical screw up in a contest, which still to this day, I think it was a good idea. It's just maybe a little less. I don't know.
I would have loved to have been there to see the look on your dad's face.
Dude, it was like priceless, and I wish that we could have filmed it. I wish that I knew that was about to happen, but it was sheer terror. Cause here I'm 6 hours from home, and it's like anytime we roll out of the driveway with the motorhome in the pit, it's a $1,500 weekend already, and
right.
that's really before you get into like meals and stuff. So it's like, not that I'm counting on winning money. Like I would never, I don't cook barbecue for money. It's a hobby. It's for fun. But shoot, like when I know it's, I got $1,500 on the line just rolling out of the driveway. Like I sure want to put my best foot forward. And you kick off a contest like that, and it's like, I knew that I was hosting chicken.
Right.
So back to that mental aspect, the rest of the cook, I'm like, I'm screwed. Like, why am I even trying?
Right. You have to talk yourself, especially if that screw up happens early. You have to talk yourself into like, you know what? I can still win a category. Yeah. Win a category, get a nice trophy, get some points somewhere. Yeah. And that's you have to be able to forget those things. That's a big learning thing. You cannot let it derail you.
Yeah, and you cannot. I like to tell people too that you got to be the like a goldfish. Like you got a 10-second memory. When stuff like that happens, like you got to mark it down so you don't do it again. But for the rest of the day, like you got to forget that it happened and try to get some good boxes turned in. Like another good story about that is I don't know what year it was, but Travis Clark had a missed chicken turn in at the Jack one year, and then he follows it up with like 3 really good calls. And he was almost bound and determined, from what I remember him saying, that he had to do something with those 3 boxes. Obviously, he's not going to win the contest, but a lot of guys cook the whole year for the Jack. Which, I know I've done that. You want to get to the Jack, so you're chasing them.
Right. Yeah, I forgot about that story. And I'm interviewing. Travis is going to be on the week after you, so. Yeah.
I'd be interested to kind of get the, because it's been a while. And, I remember him saying it kind of in a group setting. So I can't imagine, that shaking that off right there. Here's one of my other big screw ups was actually at the Jack. I cooked the Jack. I think it was 2018. Was that the year Butcher won at 2018?
I don't know this contest that you keep referencing. I'm not familiar with it. I'm not familiar with it. I've never been, so I don't know what it is.
Well, I can tell you my dad went like 9 years in a row and he won't let me forget it.
What'd you do?
At the Jack, I didn't do anything. I didn't place. I think I finished like 18th or 19th out of the field.
Well, no, what mistake did you make?
Oh, so I, of course, like I had my game plan and I worked a full work week. So I worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that week. And if me correct, I was like on call that weekend at Jack, but I was going. So I had to pay someone like $200 to cover my call at work. And don't tell my wife, because she just knows how expensive barbecue is and entry fees and meat costs. She doesn't know how much I paid people to cover for me at work. I think I worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We left Temple at like 9 p.m. Wednesday night and drove straight through to Lynchburg. So I think we got to Lynchburg around 8 or 9 a.m. and I was freaking beat. So I pretty much slept all day Thursday. But then, you're there. It's like, I don't want to compare it to the Royal, it's just one of those, it's super prestigious and like, it's almost, and it definitely isn't as, to me, as prestigious as like King of the Smoker was, because, you're kind of hand selected at King of the Smoker based off of a resume. And, also like I think there's more, I don't exactly know how they select the teams at King of the Smoker, but, I think there was more into not just like how good of a cook you were and how good of a year you were having, but basically who you were and if you were, a good ambassador to barbecue. Because there's some really good cooks that just aren't good ambassadors. They're not.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate for them. But so I, wake up Saturday morning, I'm doing my usual cook and I'm right on line. And I remember I've looked back at my boxes and I put out 4 really beautiful boxes and I'm proud of. The issue is I realized about 11:30 that chicken turn-in wasn't at noon. It was at 12:30. Everything was pushed back 30 minutes. So I was 30 minutes ahead of schedule, which is way better than being 30 minutes behind schedule. Right.
Right.
But it was right there. Like that definitely like mental roadblock for about 5 minutes. Cause like, okay, what am I going to do? Cause my chicken's almost ready and I'm about to start dunking it in sauce, but I have a whole extra 30 minutes. And right. I've never really held chicken, like how do I make this work? So, and plus like I did wings, I didn't, so you're holding wings, you're holding all sorts of crap. So that was another big mistake that hard to overcome that one.
Yeah. But yeah, that's, always know your turn-in schedules, I guess, is the lesson out of that.
Yeah.
Let's talk gear a little bit.
Yeah.
What's one of the most worthwhile investments that you've made in barbecue, competition barbecue?
So I'm going to say this is kind of broad. My Jambo has probably, I'm going to roughly guess, I've probably got 60, 70, maybe 80,000 miles on it. It goes with me everywhere. So I would say like, if I'm going to cook, I'm taking my Jambo, right? So that's definitely, and you just pick a pit that works for you. I'm right here in Texas and Jambos are all over. They're all over the country. But like if I'm cooking on an offset, I'm going to be cooking on my Jambo, unless, I might have something working in the works right now with another company that's near and dear to my heart, which we can talk about more later. So a good pit. And then I'm going to say somewhere comfortable to sleep. There's just like, you go to a contest, there's just comfort aspect to it. You got to be able to relax. Even if it's those 5-minute breaks, you get to sit down in the AC and turn the TV on.
Yeah.
Because you got to stay fresh. So those are going to be my 2 things.
Those are expensive.
Which are the expensive. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They're the expensive things. But, like, what's that? Any cheap things?
Yeah.
I was going to say the cheap things I'm going to say is, there's all sorts of, you could do it on your phone. Like I've got a spiral notebook that I used to freaking log that's interesting to be able to refer back now. Cause I've got cooks in there from 2015 or we went to Ruidosa and, so cooking in Artesia, New Mexico, or, when we went out to King of the Smoker, like I logged all those. So I've got just weather and humidity and how the cook went and basically, like my thoughts. I'm not necessarily, I haven't logged my results. I guess I could look those up on KCBS, but that's something that I think has helped me.
Yeah, that's good.
I like to be able to refer back to, okay, my pork's struggling right now. What was I doing 3 years ago? And if I was cooking it 3 years ago, do I have a geographical area that, my pork was doing really well? You can kind of hone in on a few things, maybe a few different techniques. So like I said, I nerded out about barbecue for a little bit.
That's a good thing to do, though. Like Kim does that.
Yeah.
Because she knows I'm terrible at it, but she can tell you what recipe we cooked in 2015 at a contest in August. I mean, she can pull up everything. It's fun to go look at.
It is, and it's like, it also gets very daunting. I tell new people, like, you don't need a recipe book. Like I've got a spiral notebook that's got, 4 or 5 recipes of each category. And really that's just, you start cooking something and it starts sliding off. I don't necessarily just jump and change. If you start trending downwards and you can't pick it up and you're cooking the same recipe you've been cooking for the last 2 years, like I like to know what I was doing a couple of years ago that was working, and I might roll the dice on one of those. You start seeing certain guys walk that they used to be really hot 2-3 years ago, and now they're kind of picking it back up. But what was I doing 2-3 years ago to, myself to compete with them? And that's where I think, like, having all that stuff logged, you can go back and reference that stuff.
Yeah, no, that's great advice, and something that you just reminded me. I made a change 2 weeks ago that I did not document yet, and I need to do that.
We'll see, and that's like I'm guilty of starting with a recipe, and at the end of the year, like, you're cooking the same recipe, but you've changed everything about it. Like you changed the type of butter, you've changed the pan size you're cooking it in, you've changed, like, you just changed everything. You've changed when you're brining it, when you're kind of putting it on the pit, what temp you're running the pit at. Like, it's a completely different recipe. And then you wonder why you're not hitting like you were in the beginning of the year. Right.
I've been dealing with that with a student,
Yeah.
And they switched pits and they don't understand why the result's different. And I'm like, dude, it's not going to be the same.
Like I'll tell you, like, I think certain recipes translate back and forth from, like, types of pits. You get like a drum versus a jambo. There's recipes that definitely translate back and forth. There's also recipes that I don't think translate back and forth very well. Like, if I'm going to cook my chicken on a jambo versus the drum, like, I do a little bit of difference in how I prep it. Part of it's just, trim, but it's just kind of knowing your equipment and what you got to do to get that result you need. So.
Right. Especially if you switch from something dramatic like a cabinet cooker to a offset.
Yeah. And the airflow is completely different. The type of smoke flavor is completely different. It's definitely one of those, like, I've gone into contests that I know, like, it's freaking can territory. I'm about to get drugged. So, like, I can do a few things on the jambo. That part of it is I've now, like, in the last year, started taking a drum with me everywhere. So I can do a few things with, having one can with a jambo, that if I'm going into can country and I know, like, I look at the last 5 years of this contest and see that Brad Leininger's won it, I'm not going to sit here and think, well, Brad Leininger's won it because he's a badass cook. I'm going to just say that it's a can territory, or something.
Right. It's definitely
try
not
to
Brad.
Slide at Brad. It's not Brad.
It's not Brad at all.
But, like, I know that, they like that flavor, so I can try to emulate it the best I can with my equipment.
I take a drum with me everywhere now too. And it's such a handy piece of equipment.
Oh yeah.
To have, like, one of the best things ever said on this podcast was from Timmy, who said, he's like, man, half an hour is an eternity on a drum. He's like, you can pretty much do anything you need to do to that meat to make it better on the drum. And I mean, and I've talked about learning from your own podcast.
I believe it.
There's been times where I've needed to throw things in there and be like, okay, let's get it.
Yeah, no, I completely believe it. And it's something like the way that heat comes through, they're like 300 degrees on a drums, different than 300 degrees on a jambo, and it's like, it's hard to explain that to someone that hasn't experienced it. But I'm going to have a can and my Jambo with me, and it's like I don't think I can get away from it. Now
Right.
I tried, man. I really tried because it was just a hassle being in a big 40-foot motorhome with a Jambo. I have a J3, so I don't have like the side cart that I can throw the drum up in. I really wanted to take a drum with me. I have to lay it on its side and wrap it in a blanket and put it in the underbelly of the motorhome. But last year I made a bracket, and it's a cargo hitch off the back of my Jambo that I kind of tucked up underneath the firebox with a drum like cradle that I can strap a drum into. It's freaking like, I actually think it's pretty slick until like the strap breaks and the drum falls off and kills like a family of 4.
Jeez.
Like, yeah, I know. Like
this got dark,
dude. So you should see like when we strap this thing on, like it's like Dad and I both are like out there with friggin' extra straps. It's like, you think that's enough? Put another one on it. Like, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to live with that on my conscience.
Right. I've been saying for a long time now that I think the perfect pit now is a J5.
Mm-hmm. Freaking
instead of the
Qualls.
chicken cooker. Yeah.
Have you seen Qualls, dude?
I haven't seen
him. It. Yeah, he took the chicken cooker off and has it where he can drop a drum right there.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's the perfect setup. And then
so the move that I'm going right now, and this is something like I hate to really even put the cart before the horse because we haven't started it. But my brother and his buddy have been building some custom smokers right here in Temple.
Oh, really?
And they're really focusing on like big restaurant style 500,000 gallon smokers. And they constantly are getting guys like, hey, build me a backyard. Well, their backyard's like the size of a Jambo. Like it's, and because really by the time they like source all the small stuff, it's like they've got more time and effort in a $3,000 backyard pit than they do, like an $8,000 500 gallon, or I don't know how much they charge for their pits, to be completely honest. So I've got some ideas on what I want to do. And it's not going to be a Jambo copy. Like, I'll just say that right now. That's something that I don't want to roll into a contest and someone look at it and be like, oh, look at that Kmart Jambo. Like I want to roll in and someone's like, dang, what is that pit? Like, I've never seen one of those, Of course, It's not going to be reinvent the wheel, but, insulated firebox. They've been doing round fireboxes, round tanks.
Yeah.
Which I really like. Just because like flat firebox, like I run a charcoal basket to keep all my charcoal in one place, so it doesn't fall apart on the grate. But round tank, it all settles to the bottom. Like it's just like the pits, and I've cooked on the 250 probably half a dozen times. I just need to, there's some certain aesthetics that I want. So that's why we're kind of trying to source some of what I need, what I want. But I'm going to build a custom comp rig with a drum already cradled on the side that I don't have to unload, that I cook right there on the trailer with it.
That's dope.
That's the move I'm going. So
that's cool. I like that idea.
Yeah. So
I like that idea, but I have to say that you are one of the influences on me in terms of switching to a Jambo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I met you guys.
I saw the color that you got when you got that, and I was like, I'm not gonna say he's copying me, but
I lucked into that J3. It still makes somebody pretty mad that I have it, but it's all
yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Blaine will get over it. It's fine. Right.
If you don't have haters, man, you're doing something wrong, right?
Exactly.
Who's Blaine, by the way?
Yeah, that guy from Nebraska.
I don't know of anyone significant with the name Blaine.
I heard his restaurant is okay.
It's just okay.
That's what I've heard.
I heard it's kind of like the place up in Iowa. It just has no soul.
Oh,
that's
ouch.
Big word. That's fighting words, dude.
That's hilarious.
Hey, put it on the record. I think those guys are all right.
No, they're two of the best.
They are.
Speaking of,
I gotta say, Blaine's a Texas boy. He might not be a Texas boy right now, but he knows where home is.
He does, and he goes back there often, and
He does.
have to listen to his Astros bullshit. I don't really like that.
The game's delayed right now with the Orioles.
It's not much of a game anyway.
Yeah, right. It's the Orioles.
So, I got to ask this question, and you can't say your dad.
Okay.
Who has impacted your life the most in competition barbecue?
I can't say my dad.
Can't say your dad because we all know it's your dad, other than your father.
All right.
Who's an amazing person.
Family. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I had to go with anyone other than my dad, she would roll her eyes until they fell out of her head. But I would honestly have to say my wife. And part of the reason is like she's never been impressed. And I say that as in like I know it's like I could go to a contest and win a contest. And I'm trying to think which contest it was. I did a local contest like 3 years ago. I think it was called Bob Miracle Memorial here in Temple. It was another CTBA. And I want to say I was like first, third in the 3 categories out of like 40, 45 teams. And I go home and she like looks at me and she was like, well, why'd you get 3rd place?
Wow.
And I'm like, the critics, that live in this house are ridiculous. Like there's like 40 teams here and I got first, third and overall grand champion. Like you can't be proud of me. And she is, but she's also like, she's the one that definitely like, there's a little piece of me that's like, I gotta get some emotion out of her on this, cause like she does so much for our family and she lets me go and run and do barbecue cook-offs, man. Like 2017, I think Dad and I ran like 32,000 miles on the motorhome. It was a lot.
And with 3 young kids?
Yeah. So at the time we only had 1. And part of it, honestly, it was funny. Like I told her, hey, I'm going to try to do a lot of contests this year. And I think I ended up doing like 33, 34. And it was mixed IBCA, KCBS, CTBA. Mm-hmm. But she was like, well, you're going to have to take William with you. I don't think you're going to want to do that. Like, I don't know if you can. And part of it was like, well, shoot, you don't think I can? Like, you don't think I can do a contest and watch my 1-year-old son? Like, well, watch this. Let me prove you wrong. But so she's definitely one that like, I want to impress her, so she's definitely influenced me to try to, be better and do more. And like at the end of the day, like I roll into a contest and really I'm getting to, this is really bad to say, but I'm getting to the point that I could almost care less if I win, like I want to win. But it's like, I'm there for a good time, I'm there for, a lot of people I've grown to really like, appreciate and like consider them like part of my extended barbecue family. And I see them 5 or 6, 7, 8 times a year. And, it's like, I look forward to just going out and sitting around, a solo stove on Friday night and shooting the shit.
Yeah.
So, and like, I tell people like at the end of the day, like there's a huge luck aspect with barbecue, something a lot of people just, you can't explain. Like you can cook the best cook you've ever had and finish, 8th overall out of 30 teams and really wonder why you just didn't have the luck that day. And maybe your luck came, your blessing came getting you home safe to your family. I don't, the world works in mysterious ways.
Kim and I were talking about that today. So
really like that's my whole philosophy is like, I want to win, I want to do good, but I also want to have a good time. I don't want to ruffle a lot of feathers and, sit there and stir a lot of shit up. And, some people, I think that's what they live for, but not me.
Barbecue has given us so much more than a little bit of money and a lot of trophies.
Yeah. Yeah. It gave you money? You get paid to do this?
Some places. There's a couple places that I've won that I still haven't been paid.
Oh, wow.
That's
a whole nother podcast.
Exactly.
I can say, I'll put it on the record, every contest I've cooked that's given me a check, it's cleared the bank. I know a lot of people that have had issues with that.
It's the seedy side of what we do, it's people put together a contest that shouldn't, and then they can't pay for it, and it happens.
Yeah.
But again, if that's the reason we're doing it, then that's the wrong reason.
Right. I agree.
Are you superstitious at all?
Dude, freaking blue underwear every time I cook. You think
blue
I'm joking?
underwear.
Pants me next contest you see me. I'll be wearing blue underwear. I'm probably one of the most superstitious people. So Dad used to have this song when he was cooking. That, let me see when it came out. Mary Chafin Carpenter, I think, was her name.
Oh wow!
And it was "I'm Feeling Lucky." Mary Chafin Carpenter.
Mary Chapin Carpenter.
So this song, yeah. So he would always play FM radio back in the day, and it came out in 1992. Like that was a relatively popular song, and I can't tell you how many times we would be like just getting back from brisket turn in, and that song would be coming on the radio, and he had like this huge outdoor, like, you know, huge speakers that he'd set up, and it would come on, and it was like he was going to win. That was it. That was the sign, you know, that he was going to win. So like I used to play that song all the time after turn in. You know, and you can ask, there's a guy I used to run around with, and I think he's like, I don't know if he's ever going to cook again. His name's Eric Honeycutt. He used to cook under Old 99 Barbecue out of like Conroe area, him and his cousins. He hated it. I played it all the time. He hated it. He'd like try to come over and unplug the speaker. But so that's one. Trying to think of what else. We don't really talk about like how we think we're going to do. We'll usually, Dad and I will sit down before awards and we'll kind of rank our categories, you know, and we're usually pretty in tune. Like, you know, this last weekend, he thought brisket was our best category, then ribs and chicken. I thought ribs and brisket and chicken. So, you know, which brisket and ribs were both pretty good, but, and then we don't like to, you know, there's some guys that don't like to post pictures of their meat online. I don't really care about that. Just all those baseball superstitions though, like, you know, a certain hat, certain pair of socks, certain underwear. Definitely.
Underwear are the key.
It's the key.
It's the key for me as well. And
yeah. You know what screwed me up, man? I was like, no, it's blue. It's always blue. But I was having like, you know, one of my best years I've ever had. And my wife bought me more of the same blue underwear. And then I lost the lucky underwear and the other blue underwear. So it's like Russian roulette every contest now. It's like I've got 4 pairs. So, you know, wow. It's like, yeah, she ruined it.
Well,
but I mean, you know what? Maybe I just wear all 4 of them.
That's why MeUndies, I don't run into those problems.
MeUndies. It's MeUndies, dude.
You don't wear MeUndies, do you really?
I got a freaking pair on right now. I got cherries on, yellow pair with cherries.
That's all I wear right now. I have the snow leopard print. It's like 4 years old. Yeah. MeUndies. That's amazing that you wear them.
MeUndies.
Do you know how many people I've turned on to those?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, dude, y'all have like dropped y'all's drawers to show it off at the Royal like 2 years ago, and I was like, man, I feel like I'm part of this brotherhood, but I don't want to unleash it yet. I want to keep it hidden.
You're like a ninja, like an underwear ninja.
Yeah, right.
That'll be the title of this podcast, Underwear Ninja.
Underwear.
So other than Mary Chapin Carpenter, do you guys listen to other music?
So about 11:30, I usually kick on Stevie Ray Vaughan. And we'll run Stevie Ray Vaughan until pork. And I'll usually at pork change it to George Strait radio. I just got to tone it down a little bit for pork, and then brisket's just wild card. Maybe some Eagles, you know, maybe some, you know, classics. What does Joe Dirt say? None of that pussy shit. But I guess George Strait might be. I don't know. I don't want to insult him.
Depends on your perspective, I guess.
That's true. So that's usually the routine. A little bit of Stevie Ray, about 11:30, and then George Strait, and then I'll do something a little bit more upbeat for brisket, get us through brisket. And then I like to turn in my trays at a certain time. And part of it's like maybe a little strategy, maybe I'm just an idiot. I don't know. It's almost ruined me a few times, but I like to go early with chicken ribs and then late with pork and brisket.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty routine, but I think chicken and ribs are going to hit a table pretty quick, and then pork and brisket, they might have to shuffle some stuff. And I sure don't want them to set mine to the side to shuffle, and then it just sat there for 5 minutes before it goes. So
right.
I usually try to hit like the first 3 minutes of the window, then the last 3 minutes of the window with the other two.
Wow, dude, you do have a lot of things.
Yeah. One of the coolest feelings, and actually I'll tell you the two stories here. One of the coolest feelings is, when you start doing really well, and really well, I'm going to say that real loosely, because I've never been like at the level of Brad Leininger or Blaine or, for sure Darren or anyone. But when you start walking up there and people start seeing you walk in your box, and so they start holding theirs to see which tray you set down on, and it's like they don't want to end up on your table with you. Which honestly, I've been the complete opposite. Like I used to tell Dad, like, find the baddest sumbitch when you're walking up there and sit down with them, because I want to find out. I want to find out like how I'm doing,
Absolutely.
And Dad, everyone says it, but in order to be the best, you've got to beat the best. So like, why hide from it? Why, crawl Dad around? And, it's like those guys that drive past a 90 team comp 30 minutes from their house to go 4 hours to a 35 team comp. That's just like, I don't get down with that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Cedar Park like 3 weeks ago, maybe I dreamed this. Probably, let's just say I dreamed it, because I don't know if this was real. But I was set up in the front, kind of away from a lot of people. Not really away from a lot of people, but just not in the middle, the mix of everything. And my alarm went off at like 4:50, and I'm laying there in bed, and I just knew I had, 5 a.m. is usually when I kind of just roll out the door. So I'm laying there, and I can hear like a group of like 4 guys walking down our aisle, and they're talking real loud.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can't really understand what they're saying, but then they get right up outside of our camper, and they're right by our pit. And one of them says, "Son of a bitch, Fat Boys BBQ is here. We're screwed." His buddy like speaks up, and he's like, "Yeah, an American Dream Team's right there next to him. We ain't got a chance in hell." And they walk off, and I was sitting there giggling, because it was like my 3rd contest of the year. I did the double in Shawnee like in March, and here it is in June, and I'm doing my 3rd contest, and like I'm sitting here in my head, like my routine, what I'm gonna go do, and really I just wanted, if I would have won the contest, great. I just wanted to be with my 4 boxes,
Right.
But it was hilarious. I sat there and started giggling. So
that's funny.
It's just, you start getting to that level, and
it's humbling.
Start having those. Yeah, it's super humbling.
Yeah, it's humbling. Well, we're going to have to do a part 2 at some point, dude.
Yeah, dude, I got a ton of stories, and I'll talk to you.
We got through half the questions.
Oh shit! I'm sorry, I talked too much.
No, it's perfect. But we have to do the rapid fire, because the rapid fire is fun.
All right, let's go.
You ready?
Yeah.
What do you see about barbecue on social media that upsets or bothers you?
That it's one way or no way. Like
That's amazing.
It's open ended. It's what you want it to be.
Right. That's why barbecue's
There's
awesome.
no rules.
There's 1,000 different ways to do it.
Dude, I used to, like, Rick Davis, one of my buddies used to, hashtag no budget barbecue. And I told him, like, I cook with no rules barbecue. Like, if you tell me it's a chicken injection or a beef injection, I might try it in chicken, like vice versa. Like, if I think it's good, I'm going to do it. And I don't care what your packaging says.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a favorite pre, during, or post competition meal?
I'm gonna have to say stuffed French toast from IHOP post.
Wow.
Just stuffed. Dude, it's just something about it.
Okay.
Stuffed French toast. It's just something about it.
What's it stuffed with?
It's like, I don't know, just cheap. I mean, it's like, basically like a cream cheese filling.
Okay.
With like blueberries and strawberries on top. And
that sounds pretty good.
Dude, yeah, it's like the last thing I want after barbecue is meat,
Oh, yeah.
Or pizza.
Sure.
Cheese pizza is pretty solid, too.
Yeah. All right. What's your favorite present that you like to give to people?
Present?
Mm-hmm.
Can I say gift cards?
Absolutely.
Now I'm a terrible gift giver.
Mine's underwear.
Underwear? Oh, that's solid. That's very personal. I like that.
Sometimes it's great when it's too personal.
Ooh.
And people are like, Why did you send me underwear? I'm like, just put them on, bro. Just put them on. You'll thank me later.
Hey, and I am not sponsored, but if MeUndies wants to reach out to me, check me out on Instagram or Facebook. But there's no way to explain the cradle that it gives, the support, the softness.
I've been trying to get them to sponsor the podcast.
Dude, I'll write a letter. I don't know who to send it to, but
they're very responsive with their nose, so we'll see. All right, last question. If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, getting a message out to millions or billions, what would it say and why?
You know, this isn't very rapid fire, man. Is it fair to say I don't know, No Rules Barbecue? Like, get out of the box and quit doing what you think's normal, you know, like what you expect.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's best to be in like the avenue of what competition barbecue is, but nothing says that, you know, you've got to freaking smoke your brisket how your grandpa used to, other than nostalgia. So. No,
that's great. It's
cheap, right?
Not really. You know, if you just say get out of the box, that's a good one.
Yeah, you know, it's also like what's that? The golden rule in kindergarten, like do unto others as you have done to yourself. Like, it's good to know like who your friends are, you know, in barbecue. Because especially when you start doing well, everyone becomes your friend.
Absolutely.
You got to start kind of weeding through that. So be open, but play it safe. Safe to vest. Is that the word? Is that the saying? I don't know.
Close to the vest.
I'm too dumb. Close to the vest. Yeah. I'm too dumb for this.
No, you're not. This was a fantastic episode, dude. Thank you so much for being on here. Where can people find you out online? You. Anything you want to plug?
Yeah. So check out, my personal Facebook page will get you right to me, Corey Mikes. But Fat Boys BBQ, we've got a Facebook page, we've got an Instagram, and then if you want to check out the smokers my brother's building, Loco Smokers, LOCO Smokers. I think it's awesome, you know, all the stuff. And I'm always like, I've got a class online at Barbecue Champs Academy, you know, so if it's something that you need help with, you kind of get unlimited access to me reasonably, you know, like I usually give myself about 24 hours to reply to questions and stuff, but I've got a lot of guys that are doing really great things right now that have gone through that class. So
that's cool.
You know, and it's all for the love of barbecue, right? This isn't my job. This isn't my full-time gig. It's a hobby, and you know, it's just something to keep the ball going because this has been a big part of my life. So
love it, dude. Love it. I also want to just go ahead and urge everybody to go check out Loco Smokers, especially on Instagram. There's some really cool builds on there.
Yeah, and they'll do anything custom. You know, they can do I don't think anyone's requested like a clean finish. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like Jambo's like a clean finish. These are all like, I hate to use the patina, you know, but these are like those, you think of like Texas offset, that's what they're building, you know, but they're building them better. They're insulated firebox, great airflow, you know, big smokestacks, big fireboxes, you know, and just efficient. They're 500 gallon, you know, that's usually like a split or two every 45 minutes to an hour. And for something that you can cook, you know, 20 briskets on, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. These are some cool shots, folks.
Yeah.
Make sure you go check them out.
Dude, check out that shark one. You like that? You see that?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Cool. Obviously styled after like a Air Force bomber.
Yeah, but, that's pretty dope.
It's freaking cool. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Of course, man. Yeah, thank you, dude.
Thank you for listening to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. Be sure to subscribe and like the podcast, rate the podcast, and to share it out with your friends. Also, be sure to check out the Old Virginia Smoke YouTube channel as well. Next week, we have a big one for you. Travis Clark from Clark Crew Barbecue, one of the greatest of all time. For companies interested in advertising, please contact Old Virginia Smoke directly via www.oldvirginiasmoke.com. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is edited by Chris Sedenka. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is a property of Old Virginia Smoke LLC. All rights reserved. Copyright 2021.
Old Virginia Smoke.